Hi, and welcome to the Little Gay Philosophers podcast. I'm Sophia Paramonov, and today I'm going to be talking about the Danish philosopher Soren Kierkegaard's idea of the leap of faith. So first, I'm just going to begin with a personal anecdote that happened to me a couple days ago. Basically, I'm seeing this person right now, and I feel like I'm really falling for them, and something weird and spiritual happened to me the other day. And for context, I'm a pretty spiritual person and believe heavily, and I feel like put a lot of faith into things like weird synchronicities that happen and dreams and mysticism in general. And the number 444 is one that I see a lot in my life. And I've seen it at different periods of my life, and I have it tattooed, and this person that I'm seeing gave me a gift with a rabbit, a stuffed animal rabbit with 444 drawn on the back, and I just feel like I've always seen that number in important times of my life. And so I was sleeping the other night, and obviously, and I had a dream that I was texting some unknown person about my new relationship, and I was just saying, I'm so happy, they're so beautiful, I'm so grateful that I'm really falling for them. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and that dream had just ended, and I had the thought okay, don't check my phone, because I know if I check my phone I'm gonna wake up and not be able to go back to sleep. And a minute went by, and I just got this really strong urge to check my phone, which could just be Gen Z, but I checked my phone and it was 444, and that was surreal. But then to make it more surreal, I opened my phone, and you know how the lock screen iPhone time, there's that, and then when you open the phone on the top left, there's also a little icon that shows what time it is, and my home screen was showing 444, but then when I opened my phone it was 443. And I opened I closed and opened my phone multiple times to see if I was tripping, if I was if I was making things up, basically. And I took screenshots of it, and you can see on my phone that the screenshot was taken, the 443 screenshot was taken at 444. There's a feature on the iPhone that tells you what time you took the screenshot, so it's just weird. And I admit that it could be me just finding coincidences and stuff, but I don't know. That kind of stuff has happened to me and also my mom a lot. And I don't know, I feel like there's a whole other podcast I could do about weird shit that's happened with my mom and spirituality and stuff like that. But anyways, the reason that I bring up this anecdote, whether or not it's an anecdote that is ratifiable in terms of real spiritual terms, whatever that may mean to anyone listening, I still feel like for me that feels like an example of a suspension of rationality into a leap of faith, into this love that I have for this person. Also, LOL, it's 11:11 right now. But anyways, I am bringing this up because it feels to me like an example of suspending rationality in the name of falling in love and relinquishing human desire for complete answers, and doing this in the name of faith and falling into communion with the other. So that's kind of my take, but those ideas are taken from Soren Kierkegaard in his piece Fear and Trembling, his book, where he talks about the biblical story of Abraham and Isaac, and he classifies Abraham as a knight of faith, And I'll get into that in a bit. But basically, in the story, Abraham and his wife are finally gifted a son from God after years of trying to have children. And as soon as it happens, Abraham is told by God that he needs to sacrifice his son at the top of this mountain, Mount Moriah. And essentially, Abraham takes a leap of faith and trust in God and enacts what Kierkegaard names a teleological suspension of the ethical. So telos translates to ends or purpose or goal. So to have a teleological suspension of the ethical, according to Kierkegaard, means that Abraham suspends his goals and commitments within the social, moral sphere in order to put his full trust in God. So Kierkegaard argues that having faith in God is a departure from one's commitments to their ethical responsibilities as a member of society, whether this be a parent, friend, teacher, lover, or what have you. So ultimately, by taking this leap of faith, God allows Abraham to keep his child and instead sacrifice a lamb. So because he took this leap of faith via teleological suspension of the ethical, he's able to receive everything back he was willing to give up, namely his commitments towards the ethical via protection over his son. So Kierkegaard calls Abraham a knight of faith for his ability to witness the absurd, or what he calls the infinite, and still remain unwavering in his faith towards God. So how does he witness the absurd? Basically, that comes from Abraham's choice to relinquish his son for God. So he's willing to give up his son, his most precious connection, a choice which really makes no ethical sense at all. So in facing the temptation to save his son via his commitments towards the ethical, he sees the pain and incomprehensibility of this choice that he's given. He bears witness to the infinite questions and misunderstanding that God's request creates. But he suspends his rationality and moral responsibilities for a higher end, or telos, and this end is exactly faith and personal inward connection with God that is really incommunicable, because if anyone were to be told about this choice, they would think that Abraham was crazy, batshit, making shit up, seeing things, hearing voices, etc. So Kierkegaard claims that this personal and incommunicable connection with God is the most precious and important connection of all of them. And in this relationship with God, can Abraham bask and rest in the sacred? He compares this knight of faith to the knight of infinite resignation, who is more someone like Socrates, who is constantly asking the questions like, why are we here? What are we doing? Like, that person would never be able to give up the pain and infinite questions that sacrificing one's son by God's request would bring. Like, that person wouldn't be able to take the leap of faith, because that's actually a harder thing to do, he argues. So to come back to my original anecdote, I guess my amendment or critique or maybe evolution of Kierkegaard's argument kind of lies in my faith in that a connection with God or the sacred doesn't have to just be this connection with this singular God, that the relationship I don't necessarily think has to be incommunicable, or even if it is incommunicable, it can still be found in connection with another human or even another animal or time and place or nature. Or another example that I think kind of represents this leap of faith and suspension of the self, I think the Knight of Faith is really suspending their teleological commitments to their self, their sense of self, their ego. I think that another example would be AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or different, substrains of that group. It's like you don't need to have this connection with Kierkegaard's God or a Christian God or a Jewish God or etc. in order to still take that leap of faith. I don't think Kierkegaard would agree with that. I think he thinks that in order to take the leap of faith, you need to give up your commitments within the ethical realm, which really, I think, for my understanding, means commitments towards other people. And it's not just ethical commitments in my understanding. It's also like grasp of reality. And yeah, I think that you can take that leap of faith with another person, and I think falling in love is a huge example of that. And to circle back to my anecdote, again, totally aware that that could have been a glitch. I mean, I say that and I don't mean it, because I really do believe that it was, I don't know whether to call it like an angel or just some sign. My mom was saying that it's the universe sending me a sign that is beyond human logic or comprehension. And I feel like that right there is the leap of faith that Kierkegaard is talking about. And I think that really knights of faith are around us more than we think. And whether, I think we all have that potential within us because we have ability to love, and whether or not we see it as a leap of faith will determine how far we can go into that faith with God or the divine. Like, I think that falling in love brings you closer to God, and I don't think God needs to be necessarily what Kierkegaard is saying. So that's my take. I hope you enjoyed. I bring up the 444 thing because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, you can see on my phone that I took the screenshot at 4:44, but it says 4:43. Like, that doesn't really make sense. And yeah, I think I'm suspending my notion of needing to make sense of that technological loophole of communication, and I feel like I don't need to make sense of it in a way that is practical. I think I'm making sense of it because I know it to be true of some sign or signal. I'm not even sure completely of what, but it feels like something deeper than myself, and I feel that connection in my relationship with this person, and I really do feel like my spirituality has grown so much from this connection, and it really reminds me of what Kierkegaard has to say. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.